As a British fan of the band Foreigner, I was really excited to see them announce a European tour for 2026. But, scrolling through the comments on the post, a lot of people were referring to the band as a tribute band. Indeed, Foreigner's lineup now is very different to what it was back in their late 70s and 80s heyday. I guess it's fair to say that this was a band that were affected by the arrival of grunge in the 90s. Suddenly their brand of radio-friendly rock music became very old-fashioned. But in 2007, Mick Jones kind of resurrected the band with a new lineup, including vocalist Kelly Hansen. Hansen had previously been in a band called Hurricane, and I'd actually seen this lineup, or a lineup featuring Hansen at least, at Hammersmith Apollo back in 2014. Indeed, it's a lineup that I'm completely on board with, despite Mick Jones being the only original member. I think Kelly Hansen not only did a great job with the songs themselves, but I thought he gave a really amazing performance as well. As a side note, that concert had Europe as the main support band, and I love Europe. Shout out to Europe. Europe are awesome. They are so much more than the Final Countdown. Anyway, back to topic. Unfortunately, Mick Jones has Parkinson's disease. He'd already been appearing on stage less and less. Even when I saw the band, they did the first 20 minutes or so without him, and then he came on. 2023, it got to the point where he just could no longer tour with Foreigner. But that means you've now got a band with 0 original members, and now Kelly Hansen is leaving the band. I'm not 100%, to be honest with you, if he has left or if he's leaving later this year. But by the time this tour rolls around, he'll no longer be the vocalist. Instead, we're going to have Louis Maldonado, who I believe already plays guitar in the band. Now, this brings us onto that topic of whether, classic rock bands should go on without any original members. I think there was a bit of a hoo-ha about Kiss, Gene Simmons saying that Kiss could go on with no original members. I do kind of respect that Foreigner have just basically done this, and they've done it under the radar. I'm curious how many, normal people, in the general audience know that Foreigner has no original members anymore. So I respect that. At the end of the day, I think it's up to the individual. Do they like the songs enough to go and watch Foreigner, And I guess there's also that thing of, these other band members have been in the band for a long time, So I think there's also, some people will respect that and be like, you know what, these guys are Foreigner. But like I said, I think from a general perspective, there are no original members left. Is this really Foreigner? So I suppose ultimately it is just that free market thing. It is up to the individual. And I have to admit, for me personally, the fact that Kelly Hansen's no longer in the band, that's the bit where it's I don't know if I'm that bothered now. Mick Jones, fair enough, he's got Parkinson's, and Kelly Hansen was already established as a really good singer. I could see him, the baton being passed. But now Hansen's not there as well. It's not enough for me to consider going. What I also find really interesting is the choice of venue. The London date specifically is at Wembley Arena. Now, let's not confuse this with Wembley Stadium, which is where Taylor Swift did the Eras tour. But Wembley Arena is still a massive venue. It holds something like 12,000 people. Now, I saw a band named Blackstone Cherry there where they put a wall up basically and it was capped. So yes, you can have less people, but I would presume they've booked that venue expecting to fill it. And again, when I saw them at Hammersmith, that's a venue that only holds about 5,000. And if we're being really, really honest here, Foreigner haven't released any new music in over 15 years. I don't know. I mean, as much as, Can't Slow Down, I have it on CD, it's a good album, but it didn't cause a huge stir. I dare argue that Europe's more recent albums are more, what's the word? But you know what I mean, I've made more of a splash. So that surprises me. It got me thinking, if you're, again, not to use the word tribute band, but if you're going down that legacy route, maybe you do the kind of lots and lots of shows but in smaller venues and treat it like it's a tribute or treat it like it's a sorry to use the word, but like a cover band. The fact they're playing such a huge venue, I find really interesting. In fact, it's the kind of thing that makes people want to know who their manager is. Like, hey, can he manage me? I'd love to. Yeah. In fact, I've got a really, really good comparison, which is around the same time I heard that Def Leppard announced a tour. They're playing the O2, so a slightly bigger venue. They've got Extreme supporting them, which is also another established band. And they still have a bunch of their original members, you know, like Joe Elliott and other people who... Phil Collins? Not to be mixed with Phil Collins. Also, even Vivian Campbell's been in the band for a long time. I'm so sorry, I've blanked his name, but the drummer, Rick Allen, has got one arm. Yeah, he's still in the band, and you know what I mean? They have not the original lineup, but almost the original lineup. They're still... that, you get what I mean? That seems a much more interesting proposition to me, as opposed to Foreigner. And that's the thing that I find really fascinating. I guess ultimately, like I said, people can choose, people can make up their own minds. The other thing that occurred to me, going back to this thing of Foreigner not releasing any new music, not really doing anything relevant, if we're honest, but still very much playing the hits and keeping that legacy alive. I know in America they've done a lot of like Las Vegas residencies and stuff like that. So I know the term yacht rock doesn't apply to Foreigner per se, but I feel like they're in a similar kind of vibe, you know, similar kind of ballpark. And I think the 80s and a lot of like the older fans that have probably progressed through life, maybe they have a lot of fans that are like quite wealthy, frankly, and can just like, they're not gonna be that bothered, if that makes sense. If they're playing to this different sort of more classy sort of crowd that are just happy to hear the songs and aren't too concerned about the nitty gritty of the lineup and the history of the band and everything like that. And that was kind of the other thought that popped in my head. Like, how are Foreigner in this state playing such a large venue? And like I said, like, whatever questions you might have about the legacy thing and the 0 original members, you can just put it down to, look, it's up to the individual to decide whether they want to pay for a ticket or not. The thing that really got me was the venue, and I was quite surprised that Foreigner in this iteration could play such a big venue, especially when Foreigner with Mick Jones was only playing Hammersmith Apollo 10 years ago. I guess they're my overall thoughts on it. I'd be very, very curious to know what happens. Like I said, I'm personally going to step this one out, I think, but I think the band have proven themselves to still be very good. I think as that legacy act, I think they're still, the songs are still great and they're still playing the songs well. So I wish them luck. Just as I said, I think it's not necessarily for me. If you see this video and you've watched to the end, please drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And I very much hope to see you in another video.